Every day, people are discovering more and more insane and cannibalistic details in the Epstein files. But in recent days, events have been unfolding at breakneck speed in the most interesting way. Let's start with an update on Elon Musk. Musk appears regularly in the files. Correspondence going back to 2012, covering all sorts of topics. The tone is warm, friendly, not at all what Musk later claimed publicly, saying Epstein is creep, contacts were minimal, all invitations declined. Well, remember the warm exchanges between Musk and Epstein, the wild party, the peaceful island experience incident, the ratio. We remember Epstein's letter asking about electrifying the island or range, and Musk's positive response. Epstein's heli, the photo of Musk with Maxwell, as well as the undeniable connections between Epstein and Kimbal Musk, Elon's brother. The ties, I must say, are very deep. Recently it came to light that some messages Epstein sent to Elon were blocked, and through the SpaceX server. No less. The fact that Musk actually blocked Epstein is undeniably a point in Elon's favor. However, it's still sketchy. We haven't forgotten about the wild party. Plus, the guys had a multi-year warm correspondence. Musk isn't stupid. He absolutely knew what Epstein was up to, and he was seeking exactly what Epstein usually offers his clients. Also in Jeff's emails, we see numerous reminders about transporting Musk to the island. Now let's get to the real heart of these files, the voices of the victims themselves. One of the most gut-wrenching documents is a letter from a survivor whose name is redacted down to just an initial. For simplicity, I'll refer to her as the survivor. Her account goes back to 1997, and it's packed with so much detail and supporting evidence that you can't just brush it off. She traveled from Israel to New York with her family, but ended up being left in Brooklyn with these so-called foster parents, named Mike and Sheila, probably fake names. According to her, they started sexually exploiting her right away and shuttled her off to parties at this massive mansion in Manhattan. Her description of the place is spot on, leaving no doubt it was Epstein's townhouse near Central Park. 7 stories tall, with a beige exterior, a big arched door topped by a gargoyle, and inside, things like a crystal chandelier dangling a doll. These abstract scribble paintings and photos of big-name people. There, she says, she was repeatedly assaulted by Epstein himself, a guy with curly hair and thick eyebrows, sometimes in a suit, other times just wrapped in a towel. But the worst part was Ghislaine Maxwell's involvement. The survivor describes her as this key figure, tall and slim, with short dark hair, a British accent, and always in pricey outfits. Maxwell allegedly trained the girls personally, even the really young ones, on how to give proper massages with oil, stripping down and demonstrating it all herself while Epstein watched. She outlines this whole system where younger girls get assigned to specific rooms and were priced higher. The abuse was brutal and sadistic. They intentionally caused serious injuries to the girls. It's laid out in graphic detail on page 7, but I can't go into that here on YouTube. She backed it up with about 30 pornographic photos showing her face and the assaults, including shots on a turquoise couch with a view of the Freak Museum, which lines up perfectly with the mansion's upper floors. There are also passport visas proving the 1997 trip, family photos showing injuries on her face after she got back, and even screenshots of threats. The takeaway? These documents offer rock-solid, explicit proof that Epstein and Maxwell were directly involved in crimes against kids and teens. This isn't hearsay, it's hard evidence with photos, descriptions, and corroboration. Reading this file instantly brought to mind another equally chilling one, the personal diary of a girl who referred to herself as a human incubator. Guys, did you know that in reality, Epstein never trafficked people.
Domain expansion, Epstein Island Temple.
And in general, Jeff was a nice guy, loved to play code, bought V-Bucks in Fortnite, and was a huge fan of FNAF, a philanthropist and a legend. Okay, obviously I'm being sarcastic. I'm referring to the headline of this article. FBI concluded that Jeffrey Epstein was not running a sex trafficking ring for powerful men. This is just a clickbait title. In fact, the FBI says that evidence that Epstein headed such a network is currently scant. My take on this is mixed. The client list that Pam Bondi talks about really does not exist as a single document, but its absence does not mean the absence of clients, and it certainly doesn't mean the absence of victims. Victims mentioned people other than Epstein, but the evidence was deemed insufficient, so these cases were referred to local prosecutors. Let's remember that the files contain hundreds of thousands of names of extremely diverse and interesting people who can and should be suspect. It would be entirely appropriate to question them to advance the investigation. But right now we see that in the US there's no rush at all to interrogate these third parties. This contrasts sharply with the situation in Europe. Reminder, Prince Andrew was stripped of all titles, and Turkey launched massive investigations. Thomas Massie. First, a bit of background. Thomas Massie is a Republican from Kentucky, in Congress since 2012. He's an engineer with MIT degrees in electrical and mechanical engineering, a farmer, and an inventor with more than 30 patents on sustainable technologies like off-grid living systems. Massie is a libertarian who criticizes both parties for excessive spending, foreign aid, surveillance, and covert policies. He often goes against Trump-era initiatives, which makes him an outcast in the GOP, but respected for his principles. Now he chairs the subcommittee on the administrative state and aggressively demands transparency in federal investigations. In 2026, Massie stepped to the forefront of the Epstein case. He co-sponsored a petition to force a vote on the full release of unredacted files under the Transparency Act. He accused the DOJ of incomplete disclosure and withholding documents to protect influential figures, from Trump and Clinton to Musk. In interviews and posts, he stated directly that if the government doesn't publish everything, he will release the names himself. And in public criticism of Trump, he said,
Donald Trump told us that even though he had dinner with these kinds of people in New York City and West Palm Beach, that he would be transparent, but he's not. He's still in with the Epstein class. This is the Epstein administration.
Yeah, this man has no shortage of courage. I suppose the Epstein files case really touched him deeply on a purely human level. Now about that post on X. In response to a user's concern, Massie wrote, I am not sick. I eat healthy food. The brakes on my car and truck are in good shape. I practice good trigger discipline and never point a gun at anyone, including myself. There are no deep pools of water on my farm, and I'm a pretty good swimmer. This isn't a joke, it's a precaution amid escalating threats. A user asked him to publicly confirm he's safe due to his persistence with the Epstein files. Such statements recall the words of Taylor Greene, who also supported the petition, or Virginia Giuffre before Epstein's death. Massie and Rouhana have become symbols of the fight for transparency from within the system, risking their careers and possibly their safety to get to the truth. The DOJ published 3.5 million files, but apparently this is only 2% of the total information. Moreover, we haven't even fully dug through this 2% yet. People are finding more shocking and surprising facts every day. I'm sure we haven't even come close to the darkest Epstein files. Sometimes I think the Epstein files were released solely because they knew that people are powerless. It's especially comical to see Howard Lutnick giggling every time Epstein is mentioned.